So, I went to the DCI Rose Bowl show. It was amazing. Here are my thoughts. Take them with a grain of salt because this is literally the start of the season. This is my second year in a row attending this concert, and there were quite a few new things I noticed. There were a lot more younger people in the seats, which really put a smile on my face knowing that I'm in the same demographic and we all like this music. I saw a few kids in alternative fashion here and there, which really makes me happy because I am an alt girl and I love DCI. And when those two things combine, it is the coolest thing ever. Even saw someone with a Leon Kennedy t-shirt. That makes two of us who like Resident Evil and have great taste in music. Come to think of it, Leon does kind of seem like he'd be a Blue Devils fan. Like, the type that gets really hyped when they win, but isn't really in your face about it. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. The atmosphere was great, the crowd was really responsive. I definitely was not the only person around me that was nodding their heads to the beat. During the intermissions, they play older DCI songs over the speakers. I didn't recognize any of them in particular, but they were still really cool to hear. Because this genre is made for crazy audio setups. And it's also very rare that a core will repeat a song that they have played before, at least in this day and age. And it was cool because, it felt like listening to a radio station, but for the type of music I actually listen to. There's this new running gag or fandom in-joke that I didn't see at all last year, and it's people clapping after the synth tests. As a former synth kid, it is the funniest frickin' thing I've ever seen. There was one very special synth test, but we'll get to that one later. So now comes a time where I'm gonna give my thoughts on all the world-class shows. I'll do open class in a separate video. I went into this concert completely blind, not watching any videos beforehand. And I did find myself surprised quite a bit, especially with a certain show in particular. So in case anyone else would like to do the same, I'm just gonna put on some unrelated gaming footage and some older DCI songs while I do my reviews. What an aesthetically pleasing show. The backdrops, the costumes, and the color guard all work together in perfect harmony here. Had quite a few big brass impacts and some really good drumline beats. The guard soloists did an amazing job. I'm always really happy to see cool guard duets. And I love the idea of the center stage being a sundial. That was really creative. The only thing about this for me that really bothers me is the theme. I also follow high school marching bands, and space themes are kind of that thing where it was once cool but now it's kind of getting played out. But once in a while you'll find one that really stands out. This just felt too generic for the Academy for me. Too mainstream, as the hipsters would say. There is absolutely nothing wrong with bands changing their image or if they want to go for something new, but the Academy has always been that really alternative one to me. They tailor their show to communities that might not necessarily be predisposed to liking drumcore, such as goth, steampunk, or dark academia. Their past shows have always instilled me with a strong, good sense of representation in that sense. Again, I know it's early season, it's too early to judge or anything, but I think there were a lot of different ways to better approach the theme and make it stand out more. Pacific Crest is the host of the Rose Bowl competition, so not only are you treated to their score performance, but you also get to see their encore and hear their alumni song. Really great theme and show concept. I've always been pretty partial to Greco-Roman mythology. It's a great aesthetic that you can do virtually anything you want with. I would describe this year's setlist as being like a really high-energy classical music concert, and that to me is a really fun idea. I love to hear recognizable tunes in a new way. Now, I really want to hear your opinion on this if you were also at Rose Bowl or watched it on Flow Marching or YouTube. Was it just me, or did Pacific Crest sound very, very quiet in comparison to everyone else? None of the brass impacts really hit on the same wavelength as some of the others did. I'm curious to see if it was just me or if anyone else thought so. And of course, the encore is always really moving. It's so nice to see everyone that made these groups what they are come down and enjoy themselves together. This was my first time ever watching the Blue Knights. They were not here last year. And I was really impressed. The visuals were really cool. I really liked the sleek silver designs and how they were moved around the field. And I know this is a very controversial take in this fandom, but I personally cannot get enough of narration. The narration in this show was chilling. I love it. I don't know the context behind this performance, but that did kind of make the experience for me. The narration really gave me this deep psychological horror vibe that really strikes a chord with me. And there was a rack percussion feature that I didn't see coming, and it hit so hard. Rack is one of the most underrated parts of a marching band. Overall, I was really pleasantly surprised not knowing anything of what to expect, and now I'm interested to check their past concerts and see what their whole identity is like. This freaking show. It was so amazing. This is why I'm so in love with the genre. The absolute insanity and darkness of some of these performances. Public service announcement: if you have any plans this year to see the Mandarins live, do not watch it beforehand. Trust me on this one. This felt like doing a blind cutscene reaction video, where I was familiar with the vibe of the band. I had seen them previously last year and absolutely loved it, but had no idea what to expect from them this year. Shocking is an understatement. I have a feeling that this is going to resonate with the people who like the sound and look of sort of postmodern Santa Clara Vanguard. If you liked Babylon, Vox Aversio, or Finding Nirvana, I have a good feeling you're gonna like Sinnerman. I think the best way of describing the vibe of the show without giving anything away is Devil May Cry meets Babylon meets Jagged Line. Turns out I wasn't the only one enamored by this performance, as when I went at the end to go get a t-shirt, the Mandarins had a massive merch line. Was talking to the guy in front of us and he explained the show lore. Without spoilers, basically the world's most stylish villain origin story. I screamed my freaking head off when they got second. I mean, we all knew that Blue Devils was gonna win, but they got second. And I was so hyped. I'm calling it now. By the end of the season, this is going to be in the top 10. Top 10, or the collective DCI fandom will overthrow the judging system. Nah, just kidding. We'd still fight about that too. Okay, so before we actually talk about the show itself, I think we need to address the elephant in the room, and that's the synth check doing the Wii Sports theme. You could evenly divide the stadium into those who knew and those who didn't. Laughed my head off. Easily one of the new, most iconic DCI meme moments. As for the show itself, I am not afraid to say that I am a Tempest Blue apologist. I enjoyed the hell out of practically everything from 2022. Literally anyone could have taken number one and I would have been happy. But Tempest Blue is always going to hold a special place in my heart for being basically the headliner at my first ever DCI show. I'm still humming that damn guitar riff a year later. I loved the cutouts. They took everything I loved about Tempest Blue and made it bigger and more elaborate, while infusing it with its own distinct personality and style. It's got great memorable, catchy, hummable, danceable tunes. Speaking of dancing, the choreography is mesmerizing. Had the now traditional Blue Devils upbeat jazz number, and that freaking electric guitar. Oh my god, I love it so much. The first half of the show very much has the Tempest Blue vibe, but for some reason the second half really made me think of 2011. This is in no way a bad thing. That is one of my favorite DCI shows of all time. If you've been here long enough, you will remember that phase where I used House Is Not a Home in pretty much every other video. The props look really good. They end up doing some really cool stuff with them on the field. I kind of wonder if they deliberately chose to make it so colorful because of all the backlash of last year's theme literally being the color blue. Regardless of what the fan base thinks, this absolutely worked for me. I loved it and so did the audience. They got super pumped.